Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Pipeline Podcast, episode 89. Hope everyone is having an amazing day. I'm your host, as always, Daren Mcclimans, and we are joined by the one, the only, the fabulous, the amazing Mr. Darth Yoda, or Yoda Joe, right? How's it going?
It's going good. Thanks for inviting me on. Appreciate it.
Of course. It's always great to reach out to new people and grow this giant circle of content creators that I have the pleasure of getting to work with. How are you doing?
I'm doing
good. It all going well for you?
Yeah, everything's going good. It's just another day, It's always fun, coming back from work, because then I get to do the fun stuff. Like I always look forward to my days, whatever plans I have for my content creation, and that's always my favorite highlight of my day.
Sure. Yeah, I always love the feeling of just getting done with a long shift and be like, today's 9. I can do whatever the heck I want for the rest of it. So that's always a fun feeling.
It is.
But no, again, thank you for being here. This is kind of what I'm calling a part 2 of a stream we did a couple months ago, about a month and a half ago, where we looked through a lot of the Phase 1 and Phase 2 projects within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And we're like, did they wrap all of these things up? Did all of these things have a loose end, or are we still kind of waiting for them to kind of come back to it? And most of those projects did, I think, tie up a lot of the loose ends pretty well. So I was actually very excited to dive into Phase 3 and some of Phase 4, because I feel like that is when they started to do a lot more ideas, start to oh, maybe we can go this, this, and this, and some of which I think we haven't quite got back to yet. So I think it's going to be really fun to dive into today's episode a bit later on and kind of see what they haven't kind of tied up yet.
I agree. I think that's going to be exciting. I mean, I think overall that's part of the fun of just getting to see, well, this is where are we going with this? Is this going to go somewhere? Did we wrap this up, or is there more to come?
Sure. 100%. Yeah, I think the MCU really is kind of the first of its kind in terms of yes, we're getting other universes that are trying to do what the MCU is doing, but I think it is the first one to go this big and to have this many projects within it. So it's always very interesting to see what they're setting up for, have they got back to it all, and all that fun stuff. Yeah, we typically like to start our episodes here by talking about media that we've watched throughout the week. If it's movies, if it's TV shows, comic books, audiobooks, video games, whatever it may be. Is there anything that you've been loving recently that you would like to shout out or share, or anything
Let's see. So obviously, I did watch. I had to wait for it to show up on my Vudu, but I did finally watch the animated Crisis. Part 2, and I saw a lot of people hating on it, and I was kind of I don't understand why people are so mad about this. I mean, it's a part 2. It seems like Crisis. If you compare Crisis to Infinity War and Endgame, you're making a big mistake, because Crisis isn't all explosions and oh, look at this. It's much more of a story. And if you're watching the story unfold, I thought it was a really good story. And it wasn't the craziest movie I'd ever seen, or best crossover. You gotta wait to see how part 2 turns out to judge the whole crossover. And I feel like we learned that. But if you read the comic, or and so of course, and then there's an obvious answer. Of course, 2 weeks ago we had the finale for X-Men '97, and I'm always gonna recommend X-Men '97 because that just too good. I actually I was at an event for the finale. I met the actual voice actor for the original Jubilee, which was really cool. I got to take part in an actual Q&A with her, so that was pretty cool.
That's cool.
And of course, I saw Furiosa this last weekend, and that was really good. I'm shocked it's underperforming, because it just I don't get it. It's too. Have you seen it yet?
I have not. I have not got back to the theater in a couple weeks, but from everything I hear, it's very disappointing when good movies underperform, and I feel like this might be one of the biggest ones of the year so far, where I feel 2023 movies were losing money every week. I felt like this year we're getting a little bit better, with Kung Fu Panda and Godzilla X Kong and Challengers, and a lot of these movies were doing well for their budget. And this feels like the first one where it's oh, damn it, maybe this one just was too high.
The problem is so you had first, when you look at Fury Road when it came out, it's been 9 years since since it came out. And then, while there's been great trailers, you look at like we got Deadpool and Wolverine literally coming out in less than 2 months, and like Marvel knows that they have to make that movie work, and then you have Ryan Reynolds just has genius marketing ideas, and so when it comes to that, they know they need a win, so their marketing is going to be just across the board, and that's what it comes down to is like the marketing can kind of change that perspective, and maybe just the people that marketed Furiosa, maybe they didn't market it enough, maybe it's the R rating, maybe it's just I don't know, people just weren't that interested in a prequel to the Furiosa character. I don't know, it could be anything really. It's hard to say.
Is it a like R rating? Is it?
Yeah, it's R rated. It's
okay.
got some pretty suggestive themes, and it's pretty dark. I actually am really hoping that like I never want a movie to fail, but usually when a director is successful with their brand, they're going to keep pursuing that art they're working on. But if say this franchise, like say he did Fury Road and Furiosa, it isn't in, but he needs to make some money. Yeah, I would love it for him to just jump into a creative universe and collaborate. Like I'm really gunning for, especially after I don't know what you thought because we're going to talk about Marvel's post-credit scenes later. Yeah, but I'm guessing you weren't a big fan of Thor: Love and Thunder, right? Like,
yeah, I don't love it. Like, there's things I love in it, but I don't love it as a whole.
I think Thor needs to be actually like newly revolutionized and revived. Okay. So I think we need a director that is going to be. I think that you can still do the comedy thing with Thor, just don't make it silly, and you just have to make sure that it's going to be a more serious tone because they're finally going to. We had a report the other day. They're finally going to give us hopefully like whatever goes on with Kang in the future now is seeming like it's going to be better than what we got in Ant-Man. So I hope it turns out like it's going to be good. So if they're building towards big threats, like we know Doom's coming at some point, we might as well start to get a Thor on a more serious track record again. I think even Chris Hemsworth has said as much, and it was really fun in this movie because Chris Hemsworth, obviously you have Anya Taylor-Joy, and it's the Furiosa movie. Chris Hemsworth as the villain really shines. Like you really believe that he's very serious, and so I really liked that. I thought that was really good. What else? Yeah, so X-Men '97. That one I have actually not watched the newest episode of My Adventures of Superman yet. I still need to catch up on that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I heard that's really good. I mean, I saw that you had been posting about it, so you must have been pretty happy with it.
Yeah, no. I mean, just kind of touch on like your Furiosa point. Like I haven't seen any Mad Max movie. Like that's a franchise I just haven't seen yet, but I'm super excited to kind of jump in because I hear they're amazing. I do think R ratings are hard to find your audience for. Like, we had the Joker a couple years ago, like that hit that billion. There's a lot of talks with Deadpool cannot hit the billion. It's hard. It is hard to market an R-rated movie. And I think a lot of the talks I've seen from people were like, hey, it looks good, but I'll wait for streaming, which I think is a tough conversation just in general, where I want to be like, we'll go see it. It might be good, it sucks. And I know Garfield also underperformed as well, which is kind of interesting because that's like a kid, like a not kids movie, but a movie for a younger generation, and their marketing was insane. Like I saw the Garfield stuff everywhere I went. Where Furiosa, I honestly didn't see much marketing for Furiosa. Like I saw a couple trailers, but that was about it.
And also the other thing we had to take into account of the rated R thing, I think, and I hate to say that we've come to this conclusion because we do get things like last year we had Barbie and we had Oppenheimer, which were great and they did incredible and something no one expected to have happen. But I think the biggest thing that is so important right now is I keep seeing people say, last year we had a lot of comic book movies that weren't very good, and a lot of people didn't like them. And so a lot of people kept saying that audiences had comic book movie fatigue. But I believe it is not comic book movie fatigue. I believe it's mediocre movie fatigue. And I believe that if there's too many mediocre movies coming from a start, like one of the things I started doing on my channel for a while was actually I went after the MCU pretty hard for Phase 4 and 5 because look at Phase 3, I expected better. and I just thought that obviously there's a plan, and I feel like they could have gone somewhere more with it. And so, and I'm hoping that they're finally getting there now. Like they're clearly listening to people. Even Kevin said that he knows they didn't do things the right way, and so it's all good. I mean, it's just it's kind of a weird situation because it's like I feel like these mediocre movies are really hurting these big studios, and even when you're getting movies that are really good, it's like you look at Spider-Man: No Way Home, you look at these movies. When Marvel puts out an event film, it doesn't even just have to be Marvel. When these event films come out, when you go to the cinema, you go to be entertained, you go to be wowed. And I think Endgame really ruined a lot of movies for people because I think that feeling, Endgame and Spider-Man: No Way Home, gave people that feeling what it means to go back to the cinema. And that's how Star Wars was supposed to feel, but that doesn't need to be discussed because that hasn't happened either. But
they haven't put out anything for a long time as far as the movie.
They want to put in theaters is going to be a movie of a show that's pretty successful. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, I think they said that the Mando and Grogu movie is going to come out before the Rey movie, but I'm still not convinced that Rey movie is going to come out. Like I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah. Yeah, Star Wars is tough because you don't know. They keep announcing stuff where like I don't know, it's coming someday, I guess.
That people I'm actually really getting excited about that a lot of people are still kind of mixed on. I gotta say, I haven't read the High Republic books, but I'm all in on the Acolyte. I think the Acolyte is the thing that Star Wars needs right now. Like it looks, I know people have the controversial opinion, but I think the fact that it looks so different from everything else we saw, it looks like I thought Andor was a good show, but I felt Andor was a little slow. And I don't want to say that, lightsabers and like martial arts can save everything, but like it seems like they have some decent storytelling ideas to go with that, which is what they needed in these other shows. So I hope it pans out. It looks great. I've heard some people I know of that have given it pretty glowing early reviews. So it seems like it's gonna be pretty good. So I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, no, it's been some pretty good weeks of entertainment. Like, I mean, X-Men 97 was just a game changer. Like, I had gone from over those months before X-Men 97, I was getting like, oh, I'm excited for Daredevil. I want to be excited for Secret Wars. I want to be excited for Deadpool and Wolverine. But I was very like, is the MCU gonna pick this back up? Am I gonna love Marvel again? Like I stopped making Marvel content for a long time because I just didn't know if I was gonna pick it back up. And then even though it's not directly fully connected to the MCU, I always loved the X-Men, and seeing X-Men 97 being so successful just brought me back, and it's been great. It has.
I agree. I think there's I enjoyed most of Phase 4 and 5. Like I still baseline enjoyed most of it, but there are those certain projects that are like, oh, these set the bar. Like these are the projects that I think Guardians 3, Black Panther 2, and then X-Men 97 especially. Like I legitimately thought X-Men was better than 90% of the things that the MCU has ever put out. I truly did.
I don't even put X-Men 97 on the same level as any of the other MCU things. Yeah. Even when the MCU is great, it's impossible to put that against. You can't take a show that existed for literally since the 90s and then got a sequel that nobody thought would happen and compare it to a growing, successful universe that went for 3 phases, were absolutely great and building well, and then they just kind of crashed and burned. And they took the pressure of Endgame and they went, oh, what do we do? And it's it just kind of messed it up, I think.
And I also think it would probably benefited by not being MCU. They could have been like, oh, these are the MCU, whatever. But I feel like where the MCU were it has to do this and this and this and this, where this team was like, yeah, we're just chilling doing this one project over here. We can just do whatever we want.
On top of the MCU, what did you think was not the most successful show? Because obviously you can look at the numbers, you can find out what for you was the best. If you exclude X-Men 97, we'll talk specifically MCU. What was the best MCU Marvel show?
I mean, we're talking just the Disney Plus stuff, right? We're not talking Shield and Daredevil and stuff.
Yeah, we're not going into those amazing shows.
Right, gotcha. I mean, I loved Loki, especially that second season. That second season blew me away. It's Loki. If I'm ranking all the movies and shows, it's in my number 6. In all of them. I love that second season, especially.
Yeah, I love Loki. I was a big fan of season 2. I like that they went into the Kang stuff. Even with the Jonathan Majors trouble, I thought that they wrapped up everything in a perfect way. And then if they wanted to pick up Kang again with a different actor, I think they found a good way to do it. And I think I actually just released a video yesterday about Kang and my thoughts on who should be the main variant of him, since they're going to do the whole Prime Kang and then the other like actual his variants. I'm glad they're not going to do the thing that like with Jonathan Majors originally, they're going to have Jonathan Majors play all of them. I love that they're going to do the variant thing where there's different actors playing the variants, because I feel like with Kang, I feel like the problem that they announced in Spider-Man, well, not necessarily announced, they revealed in Spider-Man No Way Home that variants, you look at Toby, Andrew, Tom, they all look different as Spider-Man. So as variants, I think that's the thing that they should have planned on from the get-go, is that they should look different. Yeah. I don't think they should be the same. I think that was going to be a mistake. Even if Jonathan Majors didn't do anything, or we don't know like what happened, what didn't happen. But even in a world where he was a good soldier and just was playing a good villain, I don't necessarily know if that would have worked well for them.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's tough.
I agree. I think I don't know, because my only worry with it, I don't know if you ever watched the Flash TV show at any point. But
I did. So I was actually going to mention this. I actually know of your stuff because you and I were both tweeting about the Arrowverse shows for a long time, and we've crossed paths, but we never knew each other. We've liked each other's posts and everything, and so. And it's kind of funny because I'm guessing you're really big Flash, where I'm really big Arrow, so it's it's kind of
both. Yeah.
No,
yeah, but the thing that does come in my mind is I think the 4th season of that show, I think Neil does an amazing thinker, but there is that time where where you're switching bodies from one to the other. It's I feel that loses a bit of the power that he had, or the gravitas as an actor. So that was always my only concern of you having 50 Kangs, was can we become emotionally available for all of them, or whatever. But I would agree with you, especially now with everything that's happened. That is the right move, is just cast this other really good actor and have him be the main Kang or whatever.
It gives them a good chance. They have a good actor as the main Kang, and then the variants, they could be lesser actors, so that they get to kind of put their spin on it and also feel different and unique. Because I'm assuming the variant stuff they're gonna do in Secret Wars and Avengers 5, whatever it ends up being, I'm assuming the variants are gonna be fairly easy to defeat, and then you're gonna have the main Kang on that Thanos level where he's fighting everybody and causing problems. I'm assuming that's where they'll go, because if you have the variant strong and then he's strong, it could cause a power scale issue that I don't necessarily know if they want.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting for sure.
I mean, the one thing they got to do is they got to depower Guile right now. Get that secret invasion nonsense. I don't know if that bothered you, but that really bothered me. I was really upset.
Man, I've talked about Secret Invasion on the show way more than I probably should have. I did not like how that show ended. But all right, we're gonna be jumping into today's episode. Shout out to the chat. We got Stranger in the chat. How's it going, Stranger? We got Jake the Snake. It says, "Hey Daren, just subscribed. Thank you very much. I'm a long friend of Joe's. It's great to have you here, and thank you for subscribing." But yeah, we're gonna be jumping into some topics today. Obviously, we like to talk about some pop culture news that came out throughout the week. Our first one, we had some trailers this week in the form of Beetlejuice, and Moana 2. Now, obviously, these are two very different kinds of trailers, or teasers, if you will. Let's start with Beetlejuice, though. Are you a Beetlejuice fan at all? Have you seen the original? Are you excited for this next one?
I love the original. I love that Michael Keaton is on a resurgence. So I don't know if you remember, Michael Keaton and Samuel Jackson did a movie before we finally got the Flash movie with him. He did a movie with Samuel Jackson called The Protege. And you got to see Michael Jackson back in action, in even despite his age going crazy, and seeing that, and then he gets announced as Batman again, and that was crazy. And I was like, okay, Beetlejuice got to be next, right? He's got to come back for Beetlejuice now. I mean, if he can come back as Batman, then Beetlejuice is on the team. And I was kind of wondering, because Tim Burton, he's been I think he needs a win after all this stuff that he's been kind of going back and forth on. I think he could use a really big, solid hit, and I think I remember when the teaser first came out for this one, and I thought adding Jenna Ortega in the movie was a good idea. And now, and the first little taste of it seemed good. And this trailer gave us more about kind of the story, and it looks pretty good. I'm a big fan of Beetlejuice, so I'm excited.
Yeah, I agree. I watched it, the first one, for the first time a couple years ago, like 2 years ago, and it was just one of those cult classics that my whole life people were like, oh yeah, this is a great movie. And I watched it, I was like, yeah, this is a lot of fun. And obviously, you've been waiting a lot less time than everyone else has for a sequel to Beetlejuice, but I think it looks like a really fun time. I think.
Yeah, I watched that original movie every Halloween usually because it's very.
Oh wow.
It's very. Yeah. It's
That's
good.
a great choice. Yeah, and I think what is very interesting to me is it doesn't seem like they're trying to like update any of the elements in a big way. Like when oftentimes when you have an old project or an old like IP from like the 80s, the 90s, or like whatever it may be, like they're like, oh, some of the effects and stuff has grown and become more since then, right? And with this trailer, what I think is so cool is it doesn't seem like they're trying to modernize this IP. It's just like, yeah, it's just a sequel of the movie that you knew all those years ago. We're keeping all the same elements. It's going to be looking the same. Obviously, modern filmmaking involved, but like the like shot with like the giant sandworm coming out was like, yeah, that looks just like it did in the original. I think that's a really cool thing to bring in here.
I'm sure they probably updated some of the effects, but overall, I think it looks like it should. It doesn't seem like it's being changed too much to fit modern audiences. They seem like they're going to stick to the original format. And I think that's going to be cool.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I think as long as they find a way to keep it classic, but while also introducing, like, I don't want to see the same movie again. Like that would be my only somewhat worry, is just to do the same thing again. I wouldn't love that, but I think we're in for a banger. Like I truly think that they're in for something really cool here.
I'm hoping with Lydia's daughter that, like, now that we got Jenna Ortega in there, that it's going to add a different layer to it, and I think that might make it a bit more interesting. Hopefully,
sure. Yeah, she's like the perfect person for this movie. Like a lot of people are saying, "Oh, she's like typecasted." I'm like, okay, that's fair, but like, I don't know. I sometimes don't always think that's a bad thing. Like I think sometimes
you should get used to seeing her, because her name's gonna be plastered all over roles these next couple of years.
Yeah,
he's getting another big franchise in the next couple of months. I can already see it coming. Like if she's not joining DC, she's joining Marvel, and her name's gonna be plastered everywhere. Like it's just happening. Like I don't know when, but I have a feeling it's gonna happen.
Oh yeah, she's one of like the new A-listers, 100%. Like she's gonna be everywhere, and I'm so happy for her.
The fact that she likes Scream, that means it's open for a lot more.
Oh yeah, and like when that happened, I was like, that sucks. I loved her in those movies, but she doesn't need Scream. She does not need those.
She's good for those movies. She's way too good for those movies. No way.
And then we have the teaser for Moana 2 that came out over last week. Now, are you a fan of the original movie, or are you not? Are you not a Disney fan?
I am a huge Disney fan. So my best friend, who I collaborate as a content creator, is called the Pixar Expert. He's all about Disney. This is another friend of mine. All right, good to see you, Chosen. I actually host a podcast with him literally right after this one, so it's actually kind of fun.
Hell
yeah. So basically, I'm one of the coolest things about me is I'm very versatile with my interests. I'm kind of all over the board. Like I'm a little bit of Warner Brothers movies. I'm a little bit of Disney, a little bit of Star Wars, a little bit of everything across the board. And so, but Disney, we all grew up. I mean, obviously I love Marvel, so I love that side of Disney. But then, of course, I love the class. I grew up with those classic movies, and even some of these newer movies. My sister's very big into animation and stuff, and so I love some of these newer ones. Like I remember I used to work in a movie theater, and I remember watching Moana for like one of the earliest screenings, and I love that movie. It's classic. I mean, you got The Rock in there, so you got that element, but then it just is a nice story, and the animation is beautiful, and I love it. It's great.
I agree. I mean, Moana is one of my favorite films ever. Like I'm a huge like Disney guy. It's like one of my favorite like franchises, if you will. And it was like the thing that got me like back into Disney. Like I loved it as like a young child, and then I've seen that in theater kind of like pushed me back into that world in such a fun way. And I've been so interested about this one because again, it started as a TV show back in like 2021, I think is when they officially, or 2021, and I was so excited. I was like, oh, I think Moana is a show that can, or an IP can work very well in like that TV show setting. And then when they announced it as a full-fledged movie, there's definitely that like, I wonder how that transition is going to happen when they wanted to move it over from TV to movie. And this teaser showed me like, oh, they've known this for a while. Like this isn't like a new thing.
Yeah. And then what's going to be really funny about it is like they got this coming out, but then they also are doing this live action one because The Rock just needs a win, I guess, at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I feel about that live action one right now.
I am a defender of a lot of those live action movies. Like I don't love all of them, but I also don't hate all of them. Like I defend them to a certain extent.
There's some good ones.
There are some good ones. Where I'm like, I don't like this is where you have the animated franchises going at the same time as the live action. Yeah, that is an issue to me.
Yeah, that's going to be a problem. That's going to be a problem for sure. Yeah. But I do think I'm still team live action. I still think stories for live action can work. Like I've seen some people with Mufasa like not say because of the Lion King that they're not interested. But I'll be honest, I'm kind of all in. I kind of think like I hope that the story's good, but like the trailer didn't wow me. But I'm kind of like yes, that's kind of what I wanted from Lion King. It feels like it feels like an original story. It feels like something I want to know about. Mufasa's a great character. I want to know more about what his childhood was like, and was it like growing up? How does he become this great kingly figure, and then meet his ultimate demise? Like we want to know who he is. Yeah. So I that's be good.
I agree. I mean, Lion King's my all-time favorite movie. So like when they announced it, I was like, yeah, screw it. I'm really excited, and like he's my favorite character within the movie, so of course I was very excited for that. Trailer also did not wow me, but like fingers crossed. I don't know, like
I'm hoping it's good.
Yeah, I mean, just the fact we're getting original Lion King music again for the first time in like a while is very exciting.
I mean, if they do any Broadway work for it, I'm sure it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, and Lin knows what he's doing. Like I know a lot of people had kind of jumped on him recently, but like the work he's done with Disney, every step has been great. Like
I mean, Mary Poppins, keep giving him his scores. I mean, I know a lot of people went after this movie. I absolutely, and I had two issues with the movie, but I really liked the live action Little Mermaid, except for maybe two issues. I had two issues, and that was it. I think my only really issue I ran into was you had Scuttle and you had Flounder, and they talked. It was great. It fit well. And then when we see Melissa McCarthy plays a great Ursula, but when the eels did not speak, I kind of started doing a fit a little bit because I was like, that just kind of ruins it for me. It's like you're under the sea. All the animals are supposed to speak, and those are the two most important. Like you have if Flounder and Sebastian and Scuttle are so important to Ariel, Flotsam and Jetsam are so important to Ursula. Like, so to me, that just felt weird. I just to this day, there's only one live action Disney remake that, because it is just like you have your Lion King, there's one Disney movie that ever since my childhood I hold in a very dear place. And when they messed with that IP and they didn't do it the way I wanted it done, I wasn't happy. Yeah, that's fair, Jake. The CGI on Ursula's final fight wasn't great.
It wasn't amazing.
Yeah, but so I'm guessing, since you saw most of the live action Disney movies, you remember the straight to streaming Peter Pan and Wendy?
Yeah, that was...
It was horrible. I love Peter Pan. I was so mad. I mean, Jude Law is so great. How could you waste his Captain Hook the way that they did? It's so bad. I haven't loved any like the Disney Plus ones they've done so far. Like I thought Letty and the Tramp was okay. I didn't love Pinocchio. Like they've just been kind of. So Lilo and Stitch comes out this year, and I'm like, oh god, don't ruin. I heard it's gonna get a theater release.
Is it?
I think before.
Did they change it?
Soon. They say they might announce it very soon. Apparently.
Oh hell yeah!
So I think it's gonna be good. I'm confident with Lilo and Stitch. I feel like that market is something that it's for everyone, and they want that to work. So I hope they plan it good and it works out good. I'm still waiting for this Cruella's sequel when it happened. I thought Cruella was the surprise that nobody was.
I loved Cruella.
I thought it was great. It was so great. It was not all what I was expecting, and it just kind of blew you away. It was great. And I know they said.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I know they still are going to do that. They're still trying to do that sequel to Aladdin right now, right? Is that still happening from what we heard?
I have no idea. Like it was at one point, but I don't know. I would like one. Like what I want, and we can move on in a second, but like what I want from these live action movies, or at least just like that department, is I want more of the original stuff. Like I don't love when you just make the same movie again. So I think like Cruella, I think Mufasa, I think the sequels. I'm much more excited for these live action sequels than I are for the original, because they don't have anything to base it off of. So like an Aladdin sequel would be
the sequel will be good. I just hope they recast Jafar. I want them to recast Jafar so bad. That was the only thing with that movie that I was like, no, everything else about this movie is perfect, but I could not get over Jafar. Just needs to be fixed. They need to fix Jafar.
I like them. I kind of like them. I think I didn't hate, I don't know, I didn't love him or anything. I thought he was okay. What I actually loved about him is not necessarily the actor, but I love like the connections they made to him, like and Aladdin. Like there's the element of like, I was a street rat once too, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I'd love to see that story. Like give me like a Jafar prequel series or movie or something. I think that would work well.
Yeah, no, I hear that. I mean, they could do something like that. I know. I think he's such an iconic villain. I just didn't feel like he lived up to what people really would have liked to see.
Fair enough.
Like,
yeah.
But I mean, I guess overall, like maybe it's one of those things where like they're still trying to develop his character. Maybe they could develop him more, or maybe it's not the actor's fault. Maybe it's more of the story that they made for him wasn't as strong as it could have been. And so, yeah, I think that could be cool. I think a sequel to that I'm really looking forward to, even though we haven't gotten real casting for it yet. I'm hoping this Hercules movie is going to be a banger. I'm really hoping.
I'm hoping.
It's gonna be good. I'm really hoping. I know they're trying to cast right now for it. So, and I think, if I remember correctly, I think the Russo brothers are still attached to it. From what I heard last.
They're either I think maybe they moved over to producer, but I could be wrong. Like I think I heard there was some kind of change with them. I did just hear that. I guess Guy Ritchie's somewhat involved with it, just like he was with Aladdin. And I did just hear that he really wants them to make Hugh Grant Hades. And saw that. Yeah.
I kind of like that. I think that might work. That could be pretty good. So I like Hugh Grant in Wonka. I thought he was good in Wonka, so I wouldn't mind. Yeah, I wouldn't mind us. So yeah, there's still some good Disney stuff to come along. I think there's some cool things they can do with live action stories. I really think if they did, obviously I know they got that show they're doing with Tiana right now, but I think a live action new story with Princess and the Frog would be really good if they had a really good writer for it and a really good script, but also give it a couple more time to let it sit where we can kind of get to build to the point.
I agree. Cool. Alrighty. Our next main story here, jumping into like the DCU. James Gunn has seemingly teased Deathstroke's involvement in upcoming DCU. Now, obviously, James Gunn's working on his upcoming DC universe. I'm very excited for it. Is Deathstroke a character you would like to see in James Gunn's DC universe?
So I'm just gonna get out of this. So first of all, I gotta say, hell yeah, I want to see this, because first thing you gotta know about me is, and even before Arrow, that so DC, a lot of DC fans, when you go for DC fans and you go for people most DC fans are like, the Joker's the greatest villain DC has to offer. Keep using the Joker. Look, Batman's one of my favorite characters. I love what they're doing with the Joker. I'm 100% more involved and more interested in terms of reading the comics. Deathstroke is my kind of villain. The way they used him in Teen Titans, the way he was used in Arkham Origins, the way he was used in Arrow, and the misuse of him in the Snyder universe still makes me so mad. Because I think Joe could have been an amazing Deathstroke if they let him.
Yeah.
But news of plans with him, and I assume because there's these rumors about this Teen Titans project, I assume the big plans that he's used for is for Teen Titans. But I do have a kind of a prediction, because I run a DC podcast on Saturdays. and I'll probably bring this up on that podcast. I do have a prediction because of the connection to Damian Wayne that they're doing with the Brave and the Bold. This could be not just set up for Teen Titans, but we might get him in the Brave and the Bold as well.
Yeah.
Because both Batman and Robin, specifically the Damian Wayne Robin, have connections to him. And I think we know we're getting a Bat family. I think Deathstroke would make an excellent antagonist to start off that Batman movie that no other Batman movie has done.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the question isn't like, do I want it? I want it. And it's not even like a when I want it. I want it as soon as possible when they can make it happen. Cast an actor and make it sure it's someone that sticks this time. Make it that you have a good story. Don't just tease it and then not give it to us. I want to see.
Yeah.
I want to see it happen. This is one of the greatest comic book characters ever.
Yeah.
Like you have. Look, obviously there's the whole joke about Deadpool and him being parodied each other, but Deathstroke is badass. Like Manu Bennett played this character
so good.
He's so good, and I even though the show season 2 didn't do a good job of it on Max, I even thought the Titans version of him was like I like the Titans actor at least, but
he did a good job. Yeah,
I feel like other than Bennett, they keep misstepping live action versions of him, which is sad. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of like the DCU, the DCEU, like I would have loved that Deathstroke show or movie that they've been planning. Like obviously,
he's got the perfect suit for it, and they just did nothing.
And to be fair, that wasn't completely their fault. Like there was a lot of behind the scenes issues with the DCEU. Like that was just kind of like a whole mess. And I'm so happy we've been able to reboot. Like there's definitely aspects of the DCEU that I liked, but like I'm so happy we can actually move forward with a lot of these things where it felt like we were stuck previously. In terms of where we'll see him, I agree. I think, Deathstroke is definitely a very safe choice when it comes to like the Teen Titans. He seems like he's like their Joker, or, their Lex Luthor. And I would just love to see him in a big screen. But you're right. I could see him in a Brave and the Bold. I could see him in that Arkham series that they've said is in motion. I could even see him in like the Waller project.
That Waller one's not far behind. He could debut in Waller.
I could see. That would be smart, actually.
You know what else? You know where else I could see him that actually? I don't think this will happen because it's too close around the corner, but it's still possible. I could also see him because we have all these other characters. And we know, that James Gunn is doing both Peacemaker and Superman at the same time.
Yeah,
I could maybe see him being teased in Peacemaker. I think that could possibly happen. Yeah. I don't know the chances of it, but I think that's an option for him. Because I think if we remember correctly in the comics, I think those two characters had sort of a history too, so they could do something like that. So yeah, there's lots of places he could pop up.
A lot of places. Yeah, I think. Sorry, go ahead. Okay.
You go first. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I think both Waller and Arkham are great opportunities to introduce a lot of characters. I think you can, not necessarily cameos, just like a good place to be like, here's all of these DC characters from. Like Waller has connections to all of these places in the DCU. And then even Arkham, I said, is a great place because you can be like, oh, this is obviously a well-established Batman. He's already fought so many of his villains. You can be like, he thought this, then this, and this, and this, and they're just here. So there's definitely a lot of places that he could like debut.
Do you think they're doing this Arkham show because of the fact that we're getting an established Batman already, like older, that has a son? So they want to show that these villains are already around and have served, and Batman's already put them away, and some of them are probably going to end up escaping, so they want to develop them.
I don't know. It's weird because again, it wasn't originally. It was supposed to be set in like the Batman universe, and then it moved over to the DCU. But I don't know. Like that's definitely again an idea I had, and I'm personally much more excited for that show now that it is set in the DCU. Because like again, I bet that show would have been amazing over there. But I think they can have a lot more fun with the characters that they can include. It seems like the Batman, as much as I love that movie, is a much more grounded universe. Mm-hmm. So I think the Arkham would look a lot different over there than it's going to look over here. And again, like we said, a great device to introduce all these characters. Like you don't have to do one by one introducing them in Batman movies or whatever. You can be like, they're here, he fought them, and here's the story we're telling. So
I guess the best question is, Sue, you know, we had Manu Bennett did a great job. We had the guy in Titans. We had Ron Perlman voice him in Teen Titans. And, you know, then we lost out on Joe Manganiello. And you know, I think James Gunn and Joe Manganiello are good friends. But the vibe I get from James Gunn is it seems like if he didn't work with the actor like on his scripts and like his story, like if they're not from Guardians of the Galaxy or something that he's worked on, he seems like he would play with other characters that other actors that he's worked with in the past that he's really good friends with. But I think like certain roles he's very interested in getting new people that haven't played these characters. So do you have any names that you want to throw down, like who you think should absolutely be this next Deathstroke? Like, is there anyone that comes to mind for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not very good at fan castings just because I feel like I don't know a lot of them. But I honestly, usually when this question kind of comes up for like the DCU, I usually go with someone I haven't heard of. Like, I like getting the opportunity to bring in not necessarily young, because you want a little older for Deathstroke, but someone I don't want like your big name A-list actors for a lot of these roles, but honestly, I wouldn't be like against if you brought Joe in, because I think Joe is kind of like in that same area as like Blue Beetle, where like, yeah, they played their characters, but did they really get to play the character? Like, I think Joe is in that spot where like people aren't going to be like, wait, isn't he from that movie? Because he wasn't really. Like, he was in 5 seconds of screen time or whatever it may be. Yeah. So I wouldn't be against it, or if you just want to bring someone fresh, someone new, I feel like I'm totally okay with that.
I feel like for me, if you're gonna do Deathstroke and they want it to last in the storyline, if he's gonna be the villain of Teen Titans and he's probably gonna fight the Justice League someday, I want a big A-list actor, because I want someone that not only you're gonna know, but also someone that's gonna have a presence that's commanding, that you feel is threatening, and just like, and there are these great new actors out there that can do amazing things, and I'm not judging them at all, but it's so much cooler when you get someone that is not necessarily because they're a known actor, because being a known actor, they know that they're known for this thing. But I like to take that out of the course, but you just look at someone they have that experience as an actor, so they'll deliver. And that expectation, it elevates it, because they're like, oh my gosh, this guy's going to be amazing against this character. And I think personally, especially because he's kind of been, his acting ability has kind of been exaggerated in the past, because he doesn't act in a lot of things other than like kicking and punching people in the face. After seeing, did you watch the John Wick films?
The first two. I've seen the first two.
Okay, you didn't see the fourth?
Sorry, no.
Oh, see, I love the fourth John Wick. So I
hear it's phenomenal.
And so amazing. one of my favorite martial artists, Scott Adkins, is in that one. And Scott Adkins, actually, if you don't know, actually auditioned to play Batman back in I think for Dark Knight Rises, when Christian Bale was kind of having doubts about coming back or whatever. And he sat his audition tape and like, look, I've seen so many people say fan cast him as Batman. I don't see him for Batman, but he did these great set of movies they're called the Ninja franchise, and like it's him just like swinging a sword, doing kicks, going crazy, and he also has some really, really good he's got really good acting in these movies as well. I've noticed, like, he's not an A-lister, he definitely isn't, but I noticed in John Wick that he's able to do different languages. He's able to kind of be more versatile, and I kind of want, with some of these actors, especially in comic book roles, I kind of want Deathstroke to be someone who has a history in like being a badass. Like I would not be against, like, if I read the headline tomorrow that Scott Adkins was Deathstroke, I probably would freak out a little bit. Yeah. I think that'd be awesome. But there's other people I could think of too, but I think that would be cool. There's a lot of people. Honestly, you know what I would love, because he wasn't necessarily like a big staple character in the news with like, you think of like, you have your Green Arrow and you have your Flash, right? Deathstroke didn't get a show. So if they were to bring Manu Bennett and just make him play like the more comic book accurate Deathstroke, I would not be mad. Him on the big screen, like, oh man.
Man, for years, like in our Arrowverse space, I'm like, a limited series like Manu Bennett Deathstroke show would go so unbelievably hard. Like,
I wanted it after that episode in season 6 where he's wrecking the fools, he's called himself the Terminator. Like, that episode was awesome. Oh.
Well, that was so unfortunate because the season 6 was supposed to be about Destro, but DC was like, nope, you're not allowed to use them because we're using them. It's
and
like
they did nothing.
But you didn't use them. We could have had them first. And season 6 was so apparently like you could tell the back half. They were like, oh my gosh, we have to change everything. And like, oh my gosh, like it would have had Slade there, and his son was supposed to be the villain of the season, Joe or whatever, or Joe Wilson. Oh my gosh, would have been so good.
I wonder, season 6, if they had the rights to Deathstroke, what would that storyline be? Would he be a foe or would he be an ally still?
Yeah,
because they wrote him as an ally in season 6.
Yeah,
would that still be the case if they could use him fully, or does he go back to being evil and going after Oliver again? That's what I
mean. I think the idea is that like Oliver and Slade would team up to try and like save his son. Like his son would have became the villain. And they had to team up to like, that would have kind of been the trajectory of the season, and probably put Slade in more of like an anti-hero spot.
So you think from those, so it's going to be more like Born Again with Punisher and Daredevil. That's because I do think that's going to happen too with this Born Again show. I think you get Daredevil and Punisher side by side working together pretty often in that show, especially after the creative overall. But no, yeah, I think with Deathstroke that would have been awesome. I would have loved to see more, but yeah, I think Deathstroke, as long as they get someone good, as long as they have a good script, and look, I'm excited to see him face off against the Teen Titans. I'm definitely excited to see him face off against Batman, because that's the question. If you're going to get Deathstroke, I know you've probably seen some of the fan casts for Batman. I mean, we already got our Superman established. Who's standing next to David Cornsweet? Who are you seeing next to David? Like,
I don't know.
I want to see what you want to see.
For a while, I said Jensen. I think I'm kind of away from that idea at the moment, just because he is a little bit on the older side at this point. Again, I want someone I've never heard of. Like I want, again, not a new actor, but someone, I mean, there's been a lot of people have been throwing around Reacher. People have been throwing around a lot of different names, but
I'll be real. Out of all the names that are thrown out, I want Reacher more than anyone else that has been said, because he's proven to me that he could do it. And I think Reacher as a show, it is believable to me. And I think
it's grown on me a lot.
But I think he definitely works for it. I'll tell you who I don't want, and I'm still upset about this because we talk about media stories. I don't want Glenn Powell. I'm just going to make that very...
I don't see that at all. Yeah.
So I cannot believe that he went from, they want me to be in this new Jurassic World movie to, I'm not going to be in any superhero movies whatsoever. Yeah. And, again, people are casting for Cyclops. Like, dude, you should be Cyclops.
I love Cyclops, yeah.
I love him as Cyclops. But then they're like, I want to be Bruce Wayne. I think he'd be like great, like Michael Keaton style Bruce Wayne. Like, no, we don't need that. What are you doing?
I mean, it's just one of those things where I feel like everyone secretly wants to be Batman. So that's like every article is like, I would like to play blank superhero. And it's like, yeah, of course you want to play the most popular comic. No, just the most popular like pop culture icon of all time. Of course you do. Like everyone does.
I think my issue would be with Jensen getting in that he's already shown that he's got the voice for Batman, and what he did get to play Batman in live action. I'd like to see someone that hasn't played Batman but has passion for Batman. Like, there was this great video I saw where someone pulled an interview about Alan Richardson, who played Reacher. He made a great point that I don't think any other actor who's played Batman has ever said. And so everyone always, when they, there's that whole joke in the Snyder movies about, Flash asks what Batman's superpower is. And he says, I'm rich, right? And so the whole thing, there's this interview where they're talking to Alan about Batman. And he's like, one of the coolest things about Batman is that his superpower is his mind. The fact that he is.
Sure.
And I thought that it was great that he made that point. Like, it's not like, having the cave and the gadgets is great, but it's, it's not how much money I have. It's, I can think through these situations. I'm smart enough to know where things go. And that's what makes Batman. And I like that mindset. The fact that he knows that is a good thing.
I agree. That's really fun. All right, I do just want to take this comment really quick. Speaking of Batman, I could see Two-Face being one of the villains in the Batman Part 2. Is there a villain that you want to see inside that movie?
He named one of them already. I want to see Mr. Freeze. It is time for a new Mr. Freeze. And so how the Batman had that whole like red filter going on with like the whole Iceberg Lounge and Riddler and Penguin?
It's blue.
Dude, just imagine the new suit's blue. You have the blue like filter going on. Mr. Freeze. Oh, dude. The problem is I just don't know who they're going to get for Mr. Freeze. I have heard a theory going around. I don't know if it will happen because it is such a grounded show, but it is possible they find a way to ground it. You know, you heard about those rumors about Mark Strong being in the Penguin in a secret role.
Yeah.
It'd be crazy. I don't know if they'll do it, but it would be crazy, especially because he played such a good Sinestro. He's already shown he played a pretty good Dr. Savannah in Shazam. Imagine they come out the gate, the last scene of that show is we get Mr. Freeze confirmed for Batman 2. Like, that's a crazy way to go about it. I don't think they'll do it, but if they did, I'd support it. I definitely would support it. I think it'd be cool.
Yeah, I've said for a while, like, we have 2 upcoming Batman movies. One of them should be Mr. Freeze. I don't care which one. I would be okay with, like, DCU as well, because I know, like, Mr. Freeze is, like, not of, like, a super sci-fi character, but, like, he is a little, like, he's very comic booky, right? Like, a character that's a freeze gun. So I could see that in, like, the DCU as well. And then if you want to go for, like, Batman 2, if you want to go for a Two-Face or a Scarecrow or something a little bit more grounded over there, I'd be okay with that.
They could have Mr. Freeze for, like, the DCU, but they could also find a way to ground it. Yeah, I agree. They're talking about
Freeze.
Yeah, that we definitely need a new Mr. Freeze. But yeah, I mean, we had one take on Two-Face, and we had Tommy Lee Jones. So for the Batman, I could see something like Two-Face.
Yeah.
I heard we're gonna get a version. I heard we're gonna get a version. I think they should do Hush. I heard
Hush would be really cool. Yeah.
I heard the rumors that they did delays for the movie was that they were gonna do Hush, and that was taking more time to build that story. So hopefully they do Hush, because Hush would be great. But speaking of Two-Face, I heard with Joker 2 that there was going to be some sort of version of Harvey Dent in that movie, like with the court case and stuff. So that would be interesting to see what they do with that version. Like, Harley Quinn's good. That Joker movie's going to be interesting. I'm very interested to see where it goes.
I agree.
Like, it seems like interesting stuff.
Sorry,
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that was my final point. Yeah, just that it's it seems like we're going some interesting places with DC right now. So I'm excited.
I agree. And yeah, our final story here today. Giancarlo Esposito. Now, recently he has confirmed that he is playing an upcoming role in the MCU. And this last week at a local, or not local con, but at a con, he says his upcoming MCU role will receive their own series. Now, obviously, there's a lot of changes going on over at Marvel. We got now an official division just for their TV series with proper showrunners, show Bibles, and all of those fun stuff. Now, first of all, did you hear about him joining the MCU? Do you have any thoughts on just that aspect of it?
I did, and I keep waiting to make a video on it, but I was kind of waiting to see more information. And it seems like on top of this article, we might have gotten a new piece that makes it more video worthy. Because I'm sure you heard about what came out today, right?
Yep, he's in Brave New World, right?
That's what it starts off. So, first of all, a lot of people when it comes to this actor, a lot of people wanted this actor to play Charles Xavier at first because he seemed like he didn't, which I think was a weird choice. But like I heard that was something that they were tossing around for whatever reason. And I know we don't talk about a lot of actors necessarily don't like being typecast, but there are just actors that are just meant to, I believe, are meant to almost always play the villain when there's a good story, there's a lot of complexity, just because they're so good at it, right? I mean, if you look at it, you have Breaking Bad, that was great, but, he crushed it as Moff Gideon. Stan Edgar on The Boys, great. Even his little cameo as Baxter Stockman in the new Turtles movie was pretty good. So, to me, if he's in Marvel, you better believe I want him playing a villain. Like this guy has the presence. Like I'm not crazy about race swapping cast, but if they were to come out and saying they were ready to, because I know they're pushing forward more of the mutant characters, more of the X-Men characters. If you're gonna cast him for a character within the X-Men, not a member of the X-Men specifically, but a character in that X-Men world, I'm still definitely on. I would say. I'm open to him as Magneto if that's where they were going to go with it, because I think he could crush it. And then And then, like, of course, the obvious one is Fantastic Four's around the corner.
Yeah.
Before this article came out, I would say I was starting to buy into the fact that he could be Doom, and that they were getting ready to reveal him because. But I think they're gonna go with someone really big for Doom. I don't know what they'll do, but I'm gonna say right now I don't think he is Doom. But I would like to see him as Doom. I don't think they reveal Doom in Brave New World. It would be cool, like an Edward scene or something. But it seems like they want to save that for Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
And they keep saying that we're gonna get an announcement about who's gonna play Doom before even Fantastic Four comes out. So I'm feeling that announcement is yet to come. But I do think that there are some. I love this news. I think there are definitely some solid choices now with the background information. I think we can speculate a little bit more about who he could play.
Yeah.
I will say one thing I've seen tossing around, especially with Brave New World, that I think is on the table. The only problem is if Sony would allow it to happen. I'm kind of getting the vibe. I'm curious about what you did. I don't know what comics you read as a kid or anything. I even though we just got Willem Dafoe in No Way Home and he's great, I don't know, man. I think he could play a great Norman Osborn.
I've heard people say that.
I really think and if you're gonna do him, don't do Goblin till later. Let Willem Dafoe ride it out, but have him steal. You remember from Iron Man 3? You remember the Iron Patriot suit?
Mm-hmm.
Steal the Iron Patriot suit like comics, and have him lead Dark Avengers. So he appears in this, comes into Thunderbolts, and then he gets Dark Avengers. So then you can build the Kang stuff, let it wait, and then here he is. But I'm going to throw out a more wild prediction that I think he's playing that might not be people's favorite ideas. So how much of the background do you know about Brave New World? Do you know about some of the things that are in like the plot or like what they're saying is potentially happening with all the changes and stuff?
I haven't seen too much of the new changes. Obviously, I know a lot of like the controversy that's been going around. I know there was like the serpent stuff that they were building to, but it seems like maybe that's no longer part of the plot. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I'm not.
Yeah. Go ahead. So one of the things I heard that they had jumped back and forth with the movie, like, or not the movie necessarily, but what they've jumped, with the movie, what they've kind of jumped in and out is that, we saw with Miss Marvel and with the Marvels that the mutant stuff is very much on the rise, right?
Yes.
And so in order for that to be on the rise, even though it'll probably take a long time before they get to this specific character, because, we're still going to play in the MCU sandbox with Hugh Jackman, I do think this is the movie that adamantium becomes a thing. And with that being said, I could see this being our new William Stryker. I think that could be on the table. Mm-hmm. But then there's also the fact that because he says it's a series, he could be an entire new character, and that would be good too. But I don't know. I feel like he's such a good actor. I feel like they've made him such a big deal that he can't just be a nobody. Like if he just comes in as a new character, it just seems. I think he's lying to people. I don't know. Like I don't think we can pick a specific character he's playing for sure to know right now. But I'd be shocked if he's just a brand new character introduced for the MCU just because with his caliber of actor. I don't think you just bring him in just for some like new agent of an organization or like something. He's got to be someone big.
Yeah, it's interesting because like the rumor, I don't even know if it was official, but like sources have come out being like it's an original character to the MCU, which would change like the entire conversation of all this because it's like all the fan castings of like it's this and this and this. It was like nope, it's something new, and if that is true, I'm actually would be really okay with that because some of my favorite like superhero characters in fiction are original characters. So you have like Harley Quinn, which was once original. Phil Coulson, that was original. Batman Beyond, original character. Like there's a lot of these big iconic original comic book characters out there. But no, it is very fascinating to me the aspect of like he's getting a show where it's like, like you're right. It can't just be like Agent Number 7 or whatever. Like even a lot of things you just said, like Stryker. Like you're not going to give Stryker his own TV show and stuff like that.
He's really someone significant. If it is a new character, it's something significant. Now, there is one that I don't know if the jury's completely out on yet because I don't know what they want to do to further explain the multiverse storyline. But because he's kind of been known, like with Thanos, they had Thanos pop up in the different movies. I will say I don't think this is the most likely scenario, but I do think this is also on the table. He could be our main Kang. Like they
That'd be
could
funny.
maybe they have something towards Brave New World because remember Sam Wilson Captain America is probably going to play a massive significant role in setting up the Avengers in Brave New World to get ready for Avengers 5. So
yeah,
they could tease out their main threat from the end of that movie. And if they do, they reveal Kang. He's not a bad pick to go for.
He wouldn't be a bad Kang. He would kill Kang. I am still kind of in agreement with him himself where like I would kind of like him to not play another villain just in terms of like it seems like he wants to kind of get out of that sandbox a little bit, which like it sucks because like I know any villain he's going to play is going to be amazing. Like for a while I was like I love him as Lex Luthor. Like I'd love for him to play a main or even like a Norman like
yeah, I think even if he's a new character, whatever it is, I mean, you look at Stan Edgar, all he was basically the business pencil pusher, and he crushed that.
Yeah.
And I haven't watched it yet, but I heard he's in that Gentleman series on Netflix, and I heard he's incredible in that. So I might watch that just because he's in it. So
yeah,
I mean, when it comes to this actor, I mean, I'm still this is on not a Marvel topic; it's more on a Star Wars topic. I think the Grogu and Mando movie would be better if they revealed that they didn't kill the real Moff Gideon in season 3 because I'm still hoping that they kill the clone because that character being wasted when he's brought in so late in the game in season 3 and then you see him in the Mando armor and it's like, oh, this is so cool. And you're like, and you see him without the mustache. I'm like, no, this can't be the real Moff Gideon. I just don't see Moff Gideon shaving his mustache and like being not Moff Gideon. Like it just doesn't.
Yeah.
It didn't fit to me. I don't know what your takes on that theory is, but I don't think Moff Gideon's dead. I think we're gonna see the real Moff Gideon again. And if we do, and we see, and if his biggest character he plays is just Moff Gideon on a larger scale in the future, I'm okay with him playing something just semi-significant in Marvel and doesn't need to be something massive. If he's Moff Gideon in a Star Wars movie, because I said Moff Gideon in Mando season 1 and 2. I've made the argument that even though he doesn't have the Force, he's a much more interesting villain and a more likable villain than any of the characters we had in the sequels or any of the other live-action Star Wars movies under Disney's era.
Yeah.
Because you're like, this guy's like in season 2, he has this menacing presence. He's a great character. He has a menacing voice. Like when he shows up in season 1 at the end in the finale, and I love his quote of he tells Mando, "You have something I want. You do not know what you possess, but it will be mine."
Yeah.
Just the way he commands the room, like just, oh my gosh, it's so good.
It's very fun.
He could be an arms dealer, like working for Val, setting up Thunderbolts in this movie, and he still would be the most interesting person in the room. Like,
yeah.
And there was some details about his character too in Brave New World. Like they said, he's an agent of chaos, and
I saw that. Yeah.
A thorn in Sam Wilson's side. So we know he is a villain of sorts. It just depends how significant he is. And why is he so significant that he gets a show? That's my question.
Yeah. I think it'd be very interesting if you maybe gave him more of like because I think it'd be really fun to see him play like a superhero. Like I think that'd be very out there for him. So maybe we because like you could get you could say that like Bucky was a thorn in Captain America's side in like the second movie, right? You could say that. So
he's gonna team up with the Avengers in the later movies. Maybe that's the plan. Giancarlo Esposito is just gonna be.
That'd be so funny. Just like John Esposito next to like Captain America and Doctor Strange. Like that'd be like it'd be so strange, but I'd also be like, yeah, but he could do it because he's that good of an actor.
We're in the multiverse now. Like anything is on the table. Like I've even opened myself up to because of the absurdity of things. People have been talking about cameos in Deadpool and Wolverine. I don't think it will happen, but I've opened my mind, and I don't think he would do it because even though they talked about him potentially being in the movie for one role, if they could have convinced James Gunn and Warner Brothers to even though they don't necessarily own the actor, they own the rights to the character. If they could have, if they were able to make such a mockery of Green Lantern with Ryan Reynolds wanting to like continue to trash on Green Lantern, could you imagine if you get to that portal scene and it's Ben Affleck's Batman instead of Ben Affleck's Daredevil? Like if they convinced him to get in the suit one more time after Flash, like it'd be wild to see if they could get that. It won't happen, but if they did it, it'd be great. I would love to see. I mean, they teased Batman in the last movie where Deadpool's like, Cable's like, who are you? He's like, I'm Batman. So like they could do something Batman related, but I don't know if it will happen. I think they're just gonna go crazy with the Marvel characters they have. So that movie's gonna open the floodgates. Like you saw the ticket sales. Like I got my tickets. I don't care what these box office numbers are saying. Everybody's gonna see Deadpool because I will say this: we had Marvel trailers that have looked very exciting and very promising, but they've all revealed big things about the movie. The biggest thing we know about this Deadpool Wolverine movie is that Hugh Jackman's Wolverine is coming back. And I guess since reliable sources like Deadline and stuff, apparently Jennifer Garner's Elektra is like basically confirmed to have a massive role in the movie.
Yeah.
But they didn't put her in a single trailer. So whenever
they're hiding a lot, which I love.
And did you see the interview where when the tickets went on sale, how when they shot that little teaser to announce the tickets had gotten sale, they had to shoot new stuff with new angles because all the 7 minutes that they were going to originally show, they can't not reveal anything. So
that's amazing. That's what I wanted. I said, like, we haven't seen much new footage since that first trailer. Like, even that second trailer we got, it was a lot of the same footage we saw the first trailer, which I love. I think that's amazing.
I do wonder, because it is marketing, I do wonder if we will get a TV spot pretty soon that reveals something significant. Not a huge thing for the movie, but something that just kind of like something we already know about, just being out there to build hype. Yeah. Like we've heard rumors of, I'm convinced, I don't know about you, but I'm convinced that one of the characters we're going to get is not a cameo, but a significant character in this movie that they're hiding. I'm convinced that they're going to, because this movie's all about bringing back the Fox characters and giving them the justice that they deserve. I'm convinced we're finally going to see Channing Tatum's Gambit.
I think so too.
I'm convinced. And especially after 97, he was blowing up on trends.
Yeah.
Like, this is the way to do it. Like,
I pitched on here like a year ago, like how funny it would be if it's not him as Gambit, but it's him as an actor hearing that his movie's getting canceled and be like, yeah, like this Gambit movie's going to be amazing, guy. Like I think that'd be really funny.
You know what's funny? You know what I think is kind of hilarious that nobody ever thinks about? Did you realize what's so funny about Sean Levy doing Deadpool and Wolverine, Ryan Reynolds being Deadpool, Hugh Jackman being Wolverine, and the idea of Channing Tatum being in this movie?
Yeah.
They all worked in Free Guy together. Because you had Sean Levy directed it, Ryan Reynolds was the lead character and the villain sort of character in that movie attached to the main villain. And then you had one of the characters in the video game world was actually voiced by Hugh Jackman. And then Channing Tatum played an actual character in that movie. So now I think for me, I think without a doubt they're gonna go crazy, and we need a good Gambit. Now, what I really need them to do is, I know we're not gonna touch the main new MCU X-Men reboot for a while, but we know that Hugh Jackman's gonna come back for this movie and then Secret Wars and maybe even Avengers 5. We don't know what that contract says, right?
Yeah.
But what I wonder, and I thought about this too because it might take them a while to rebuild this whole Kang plan. What I would love is there are some X-Men that they're older, so you couldn't necessarily do a 6-movie contract, right? But I think the opportunity to see some of these characters in more than a cameo that deserve to get more should get more. So we didn't get to see a Channing Tatum Gambit movie off the ground because of whatever. The people that were working at Fox didn't know anything about screenwriting and how to get a good person involved, right?
Yeah.
But if this movie opens the floodgates for a Gambit movie with Channing Tatum, and I don't care if it leads into the MCU later or if it's just a solo standalone movie of his time as Gambit, maybe prior to Deadpool and Wolverine, whatever they do, I'm game. I'm game for a solo Gambit movie. Especially after 97. I did a character ranking of 97 recently, and Gambit was my number one favorite character in the show, despite him being out of the picture for most of the season.
Oh, wow.
Love the character. I think the character is amazing. Right. I was trying to do a ranking of the obvious answer is to put Wolverine at number 1, but I liked how X-Men, when people think of the X-Men, the Main Street audience, they don't think about they only think about Wolverine. They don't think about anyone else. So I like that the show focused on the other X-Men.
Yeah.
Say, oh, these are the X-Men, and like Wolverine can join later. So I think that's really cool. And so I think Gambit's out there. I also think, because I know you've probably seen all the Fox X-Men movies.
Mm-hmm.
If they bring back Jim Marston in this movie and he plays Cyclops in the classic 90s style suit, which I think he is, he doesn't end here. He continues. Because what they did to him, I think you let him get him at least in 2 more movies as Cyclops. Yeah. And after 97, like that first episode of 97 where you saw him like break into the warehouse and kicking ass and stuff, dude, Cyclops the movie. Pitch it, direct it. Yeah. I'm in. Like I think it's great. Like I think Wolverine got 1, 2, 3, 3 full 4 solo. No, yeah, three
solo movies.
Like, why couldn't we get other X-Men getting solo movies? Like, it's
and I would even argue that every X-Men movie is like a Logan solo movie. Like, he's the lead of all of those.
So
at least
why can't someone else get a chance? Cyclops is the true leader of the X-Men. Why can't he get a movie? If Iron Man got movies, Captain America got movies, where's the argument that Cyclops can't get movies? And then
I 100% we're building to that. I'd be shocked once we get like the MCU X-Men. Like, I think Storm should be the first one. I think that should be the first X-Men SF movie in the MCU.
So you think just Storm?
It's Storm. I think it's an MCU movie. Storm. I think that's the first character you should introduce in the new line of X-Men.
I think that'd be great. I mean, I thought about that with 97. That Storm definitely needs some more focus. And and on that note, Halle Berry's definitely in Deadpool and Wolverine. I think every original person that was an original Fox X-Men, whoever they were able to get, is in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
They're all here. I'm like, get the opportunity to get because I don't know if you can say the movie will ever I don't think you'll ever get anything as a movie that touches Endgame, but I think there's an opportunity to do a scene that gets on that portal level, where he gets it gets that same level of hype. And I feel like Spider-Man No Way Home had some great fan service moments, but I don't feel like we got that super hype moment that it felt like an Endgame. I think Deadpool and Wolverine gets the fights in Spider-Man were good, but I think Deadpool and Wolverine has the opportunity to give more epic cinematic battles with the actual R rating helping make that even more awesome. So I think everyone's gonna go see that movie. I think it's gonna be wild.
Yeah. Alrighty. We're gonna. I think we're gonna be moving on to kind of the main topic of the episode with the time that we have left, to talk about some post-credit scenes within the MCU. Now, we're not going to spend too long on each one, but I do want to kind of look at some of these, see if we think that they've aged well, if they haven't aged well, if we think they wrapped everything up within them. And also a disclaimer: some of these movies I haven't seen in a good couple of years, so. So again, I don't know if you've watched some of these Phase 3 projects in recent, but we'll talk about them and kind of give our thoughts on each one of these. Or not each one of these, just as much we can get done in this certain amount of time. So first up here, we have Civil War. This is kind of where we left off last time. And this movie had 2 different post-credit scenes. One heavily setting up Black Panther and Bucky going to Wakanda, and the other being Spider-Man Peter Parker. Now, what's your opinion on these two post-credit scenes? Did these hype you up back when these happened? Were you excited that we're getting these 2 big MCU characters?
Yeah, I love both these. I will say that the Spider-Man one, because we had Spider-Man previously, and just the idea of Spider-Man in the MCU is great. But I do think that the Black Panther one was slightly more interesting because not only did it involve Bucky, but the fact that it really set the foundation for Steve and T'Challa's rest in peace, of course, their foundation of their friendship, and the fact that we knew this was leading into Black Panther movie, and seeing where we are now with that happened, I think that one arguably had a more significant level of hype, because I love Spider-Man, but we didn't have anything with Black Panther in live action previously. So and so we're giving a great taste of his character. So I don't know about you, but as much as Tom Holland is great as Spider-Man, I was craving for Panther's movie immediately after watching his scene in Civil War. I was to me, even though there's great actors in this movie and great performances, I thought every scene Chadwick was on in this movie stole the scene. Like,
I think Civil War, looking back on it, is probably still my favorite of both Spider-Man and Black Panther in the MCU. Like, I think both of their stuff in that movie's phenomenal, and it's crazy to think back to a time that we didn't always have Black Panther and Spider-Man in the MCU. Like, they're both obviously, like you said, rest in peace, but like they were both such a staple to the MCU, and like Wakanda and Spider-Man, like on their own, massive things within the MCU. Even, Black Panther only has 2 movies up until this point, but like we're getting the animated prequel, and sometime this year apparently we're obviously going to be getting a Black Panther 3 at some point, and everything that they've built up, and then of course Spider-Man. But like it's crazy to think back to a time where like there was a point where we didn't think we would ever get Spider-Man in the MCU, and then we did, and it was great.
I thought it was great. I really liked what this end credit scene. I feel both are paid off brilliantly, and I think that they led to a promising future that I think I can look back at and feel like that was awesome.
I agree. All right, next up here we have Doctor Strange. I think this one might actually be out of order. I don't think this is the next one in line. But we have Doctor Strange, and the main one being Mordo, kind of at the end of the movie there, being like, seems like he's on a more villainous past. And of course you had the Thor thing as well. And this is one I'd argue that we still haven't quite got back to, right? Like we haven't seen, saw him in Doctor Strange, the alternate version of him in Doctor Strange 2, but besides that, we haven't really seen him.
I feel like the one with Mordor, because in and hopefully they'll save it for the third Doctor Strange movie.
Mm-hmm.
We have not seen the true Mordor on his path that I thought was supposed to. And I've been a little disappointed about that because I was really hoping. I love the actor for him. I think that we needed to see that story unfold, and so I think that personally, I've been waiting to see that. I'm a little disappointed that we haven't gotten there yet. He was the logical villain for Doctor Strange 2. If you go back from Doctor Strange 1, it made perfect sense for him to be set up as our main villain. Like, to me, it just is weird that we jumped off the course that we did and not here. And on the other one, you have the whole just Thor comedic scene that obviously we get paid off in Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Which
100%.
Yeah. So it worked out, and it gave us the amazing I have been falling for 30 minutes. Oh gosh. He really did not like what.
And that's one of the only times that Thor and Strange have really interacted, huh? They haven't done much outside of that scene.
They didn't do much in Infinity War or Endgame, which is interesting.
It's kind of that. I mean, I think that'd be kind of fun. Like they're, two of the I won't say OG Avengers, but like 2 of the team that are still around, right? You don't have Steve and stuff like that.
I think they could have some scenes in
that'd be
probably
cool.
Avengers 5 and probably Secret Wars coming up. I think there's probably a plan for them. I agree. To interact with them.
Yeah, that'd be really fun.
Interact, but I'd love to see them fight using their powers together. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Like, I'd love to see him summon a portal and then he just or because he has Stormbreaker and he can also summon portals. Imagine they both just go crazy together. It'd be awesome.
That'd be cool. Yeah, I feel like they're so similar characters and yet so different at the same time. So I'd be very much down to see those 2 characters interact in the future.
Strange is so serious. I'd love to see them have a comedic moment together. I think it'd be fun.
Sure. Yeah, that's that seems like a similar back and forth that Iron Man and Strange had, but different, right? In a different way than they had it. All right, next up we have Guardians 2. Now there's actually several post-credit scenes I think to Guardians 2, but I chose the one setting up Adam Warlock that we did get back to at some point. It just took a very long time.
it did take a long time, and I gotta say, with the long time that we got, I guess I would say because obviously James Gunn wrapped up. He's not going to work on these characters or these movies again. They did wrap it up in number 3. I don't know if I'm fully satisfied with where they went with Adam Warlock. I guess I was expecting a bit more, but I think it's for the most part it worked out. They paid it off technically. It just depends how you feel about how it was paid off.
Sure. Yeah, I didn't dislike Adam throughout the movie. I was kind of like, as someone that I don't read as much comics as I wish I could. Like, I'm not an expert on Adam Warlock as a character or anything. So that was kind of my first kind of introduction to him.
Yeah.
And I thought he was fine. Like, he was probably my least favorite element of the movie, not because he was bad, just because everything else was so good, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was okay.
It's kind of hard to compare him when the high evolution is so good.
Sure.
It's so, and it felt more like, well, it's a Guardians movie. It felt so focused on Rocket, so his story was so important. So I don't necessarily think that Warlock really had much of a place. But he did fine. And we got to pay to. I feel like this is probably as good as we're going to get with Adam Warlock in this version of his story. I don't think there's enough people that care about him getting necessarily a bigger role or anything. Like he's not a huge enough character where it's like, oh, we need to do more with him. I feel like it's fine. I mean, didn't they have the thing at the end where he technically joined the Guardians?
He's part of the crew now. Yeah, I could.
Yeah, maybe they'll do something with him in the future. Then okay.
Yeah, I could see. Like we've talked about on here a lot of the idea of like, should there be another Guardians movie? And I'm pretty indifferent on that. Like, if you can get another director to do one with a new team, okay, whatever. But I also don't need that. Like, if you want to lay them to rest for a while and maybe have them appear in like an Avengers movie or something, I'd be okay with that as well.
I don't think they need another movie of their own. I think they should show up as a new formed team. Because I think everyone's in Secret Wars, so I think that every team that you can imagine is going to be in Secret Wars. So I think whatever version of the Guardians, like even if you have a new team of Guardians, I think Star-Lord and the original members that are alive, even the ones that are dead, we'll probably see variants of them. Like,
sure.
It's crazy when you think of Infinity War and Endgame. I can't wait. Like, you see how many characters were in that movie. I can't wait to see that cast list of just like how many like people are gonna be on that list. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I agree. And we've just been I'm personally a little bit more excited for Avengers 5 just because I'm really excited just to see the team we've been trying to build up to finally interact for the first time. Like, that's very exciting to me.
I'm just nervous about... Here's what my thing, okay? I'm nervous about Avengers 5 because I heard it's going to be mostly the Avengers that we have kind of had during our mediocre phase of the MCU. And some of them I like and some of them I'm not huge fans of. So I'm a little nervous about the dynamic between them. Like, I'm excited about Shang-Chi. I love Shang-Chi. I love Spider-Man if he's still involved from what I heard. I assume Doctor Strange is going to be good. I'm crossing fingers. It hasn't been revealed because I thought they were going to save him for more something like Midnight Suns, but I'm really hoping it's there.
Yeah.
I'm also
Sorry, go ahead. No, I was just going to...
Yeah, go ahead. You go first. This is yours.
I'm so sorry. No, I mean, I just think Phase 4 has honestly, again, I hit and miss, of course, but they've also introduced some of my favorite MCU characters in general. So there's just a lot of characters, and there hasn't been that satisfying moment of oh yes, they all get to come together finally. And I think once that happens, actually, I think people might enjoy Phase 4 a little bit more because it's what they're building to. We just haven't had that climax yet. Yeah,
we see them all together and they're cool. I think that would be nice. I think for me, I want to see Moon Knight. I want to see Shang-Chi. And in terms of we think about how cool it was seeing different characters team up and doing their different fighting moves together. Mm-hmm. I want to see. I don't know if they've said that they're going to do it or not because I've heard rumors about them changing the script and doing different things. I know that we'll have Born Again by the time that Avengers 5 comes out. Yeah. I really want to see Daredevil, Shang-Chi, and Moon Knight all together. I really want that team up. I think that I'll even settle for just Moon Knight and not Moon Knight. Just Shang-Chi and Daredevil. That I want more than any other team up in that new line of characters.
That'd be fun.
I think those two characters would be awesome.
And even a lot of people don't like the actor who played him originally, but I think Iron Fist and Shang-Chi could be really cool as well. If you could.
I actually have a video about the sequel so I'll tell you this much, and this might be a crazy thing. When you look at my MCU, so I don't know if I had told you before I originally had started talking to you, but I am an actual person that studied martial arts for over 4 years. So I gravitate towards martial arts characters.
That's very fair. Yeah.
So I I thought that other than Captain America, Civil War, Winter Soldier, and other than like Infinity War and Endgame, in terms of the standalone quintessential MCU standalone movie,
Yeah.
I hold a very high bar for Shang-Chi because I thought that in a time where we were not getting very good movies and TV shows, I thought that movie just met everything.
Love that movie. Yeah, I agree.
It's in my top 5 MCU movies. Like I love
wow.
It. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Well,
I
martial arts stuff and the live action anime feel to me like people complain about the CGI stuff in the end. I loved it. I love the dragon riding and the battles of the rings on Dragon Ball level. Like that's because that's the thing, right? In the MCU, we got Kang out here, we got Doom in here. Look, I love these characters like Daredevil and Captain America standing on their own with like limited superpowers, but you gotta give the man something to stand out up against Hulk and Captain America, Captain Marvel, all these powerhouse characters, right? So you might as well give him some like Dragon Ball power, like rings, so that he can start like blasting Thanos with energy beams or whatever he's gonna do. Like I think they're gonna go full Dragon Ball with him. I think he's gonna be like the answer to. No matter if they bring him and Iron Fist together, now that's gonna be crazy because you get the chi energy and they're just like going, they're gonna go crazy just doing them. Like, oh, it'd be wild. I love that movie. I thought the fights were great. The score, even the comedy, the way they played with Awkwafina and his character all together, and all the characters.
I liked her in that movie.
They used Wong in that movie was great.
I loved Wong. Yeah, I enjoyed that movie quite a lot.
Oh, and then we got this one. This one has not paid off yet. We will get it. So the sad thing is, part of this will be paid off, and the other part is a mess because this is obviously Vulture talking to Scorpion. Now, the problem is the Vultures. This stuff kind of got retconned because of Sony decided to meddle in Morbius with Michael Keaton's Vulture.
Yeah.
Now there is a chance that we see Vulture again. There's variants and other things they want to do potentially, but in terms of Scorpion, I see. Did you watch Echo?
I did.
I see Daredevil Born Again, and Spider-Man, specifically Spider-Man 4, whatever it ends up being called. I think you're gonna have Kingpin. Like, did you ever see the old '90s Spider-Man show?
I'm currently watching it now. Yeah, I'm watching it for the first time.
Did you get to the point where you have Kingpin builds his version of his like criminal empire with the villains?
Not yet, but I'm excited to get there.
Well, eventually you'll see Kingpin build that kind of. He hires other Spider-Man villains to work for him, and so because he's going to be the mayor, he can't always be calling the shots and pick street fights with Spider-Man and Daredevil. And I do think Spider-Man 4 is going to be in every other movie. You've had mentors for Peter, and you've had some sort of team up. I think Spider-Man 4 will be it's going to be a grounded street level story, but you're going to have that first true Spider-Man team up where Spider-Man and Daredevil actually have to work together, and they're both in their costumes. Because Spider-Man has no one. He has no one. He needs a superhero buddy to help him fight crime because nobody knows who he is. So he's going to need someone to have his back. So I do think that this end credit scene, I think we'll see Scorpion in Spider-Man 4. I think that's where this will go. I think this is yet to be fully paid off, and I think it will be paid off.
Yeah, this is the one I think a lot of people point to when they talk about like MCU scenes that have yet to be paid off. And I'm kind of under the assumption that like, yeah, true, but like I feel like in 2 and 3 we haven't really had a great chance to do so. Like I don't know if there's been a place yet where it would have really made sense for Scorpion to be here. And I do think me and everyone else really wants a grounded next trilogy for them. And yeah, I could definitely see Scorpion coming back in. The Vulture stuff, I don't know if we'll see Vulture again. Like obviously this seems like they're kind of trying to tease very early on, like, oh, maybe a Sinister Six someday. And I think if they want, they could really retcon the Sony stuff. Like I don't think they're going to ever acknowledge it's tough because it's all Sony, right? So they can do whatever the heck they want. But I could see them being like, don't just forget about that. Like, no one wants it. It's fine. Just don't worry. Whatever.
They might do that at some point. But yeah, I mean, I know that that's definitely something that's on the table. I think not necessarily needing a Sinister Six, but I could see them using Scorpion as a new threat that kind of could be used to move the needle and make a threatening foe for Spider-Man. And we don't have any live action adaptations of Scorpion, so this will be the first one. So
I agree. Like, one of my favorite things about most Spider-Man movies is usually they pick a new villain that's never had a movie in prior, like outside of the last one, of course, where they all come back. But like each movie, usually it's like, oh, a new villain we've never seen in live action before. And I think Scorpion would be really cool.
In a grounded scenario, do you think you could see Scorpion's suits and all the gadgets it comes with working, or do you think they would modernize it and change some of the ways that it works?
I don't know. It will be very, because I feel like, I don't know, because originally it was a lot of like Stark tech, right? Like that was kind of what they were kind of building in.
And everything, because they had the whole, and even in the Insomniac universe, they all have like powered suits. So some of the villains. So if they do it based on tech, I think you can make it grounded enough. As long as it doesn't go to like the Doctor Strange magic level, I think you're grounded and you're fine.
Yeah. I can definitely see them going in a tech direction, and this is definitely one that, like, I think just for the sake of like, for I can stop hearing people complain about they haven't got back to it. I need them to do it in 4, just because like if it was like every month there's like, well, they still haven't done this. I was like, guys, relax. Like, they've been doing a lot in that trilogy. So I think
there's still time. There's still time.
Yeah,
definitely. We don't gotta worry about it. It's gonna happen. I think it's definitely and then this one. Okay, now this one is interesting because I feel like they paid this one off because we got to see Black Panther. T'Challa himself has dubbed Winter Soldier as the White Wolf, and now the question is, because we also got Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I wonder if in a future project, maybe even Thunderbolts, if they're going to further that story in some way, because I feel like they've done a lot of teasing with it and connections with it, but I feel like there might be more to the story that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah,
but I think for the most part, specific scene has paid off.
It's interesting because I feel like after Civil War, we're like, oh, he's going to Wakanda. Like that's a pretty interesting thing, and then Infinity War happens, and he's there just for he can already be there when the fight happens, and that's kind of the extent of where that ended up going. And like you said, like there is still that connection through Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We get to see some of those characters come to us in that show. I do wonder again, like you said, if there will be anything, like if we're just kind of done with that connection again in Thunderbolts or whatever the heck we are doing with the future of Bucky. Like we don't quite know what happens after Thunderbolts and Captain America.
The future's still open.
World. Yeah. And one of the ideas that we had talked about in the first episode we ended up doing in this was like how, because like there was a conversation that was really going around a couple months ago where it's like, oh, like why didn't the MCU do more with Bucky? And we're like, they did so much with Bucky. Like he's arguably the most important character outside of the main 3 in the MCU phase 1, 2, and 3. And I think we've already had Bucky in 2 of the post-credit scenes we talked about. In this one, he was in like 5 in the last one. Like just how much of early MCU did revolve around Bucky is honestly kind of insane.
Because he's a super important character.
Yeah, he's so important to, like, he's such a big important character to both Captain America and Iron Man. Like it's his fault that like the Avenger, or not his fault, it's Zemo's fault, but like he's the catalyst that the Avengers broke up and Thanos was able to win. Like it's all surrounded around Bucky in a weird way. So and it's kind of crazy.
It also makes you wonder because, like, obviously, they got Sam rocking around as Captain America, but I think that Bucky's still got a pretty big future ahead.
Yeah,
his character's still going to be important and significant moving forward.
Yeah, it's kind of insane. We're like so many, like, obviously, I think the number is like, I think it's like Samuel L. Jackson and then Tom Hiddleston as like the 2 like most runtime characters in the MCU, but like Bucky was there since the very beginning and he's still there. Like he's still kicking, he's still doing a lot in like the MCU. So it's crazy how involved he's been over the years.
I agree. I think it's great. I think it's great. I like where this led. I think it was great leading into Infinity War with this. So it's good to see that they did that they've done so much with Bucky. I think it's great.
I agree. All right, Avengers Infinity War. Oh boy, oh boy. So this was a pretty big one. This was a pretty big one at the time because there was a lot of like we had heard that prior to this there was a Captain Marvel movie happening. So a lot of people were like, "Hey, where has she been all of this time?" And obviously ending Infinity War with everyone getting snapped and just a blinking light at the end of that movie being like, "Oh, she's coming."
Actually, and with this one, you have this setting up two movies because you're setting up the idea of Captain Marvel as a character, but then you're also teasing that, Nick Fury going missing, this will be how Carol comes back into Endgame. And so I think that's kind of cool that they were able to use it for both movies.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think the best post-credit scenes are ones that can tell a story, yes, but I think ask questions. I think that can ask you, like, you end the scene by like, what does that mean? What is this leading to? Oh my gosh, what is that? And then that leads them to be like, what's this symbol? Oh, it's Captain Marvel. Okay, and you have new audiences reading who Captain Marvel, and you have all these things. I think it's a perfect thing a post-credit scene can do if it's not too overbearing, but just like a tease, which I think is great.
I think the biggest thing you can do in terms of this with these post-credit scenes are Ryan Reynolds said this in his disclaimer for Deadpool and Wolverine that they're commercials for the next movie.
Yeah.
So you're selling a product. While you do get trailers, this is that first look at what the next thing is. So you need to have a really good idea of like some of these ones, not all of them obviously, but the ones that paid off, when they paid off, I think they pay off amazingly.
Yeah.
Like when they're paid off right. Like I think it's great.
I agree. And obviously it paid off very well. Like obviously we got this is the next movie after this one, right? This was the next one in line.
Yeah, I think Marvel was pretty close to coming out right after this.
Yeah, so I think it works well. It teases the next one, builds up for Endgame. It obviously paid off very well. And yeah, I think it works very well. All right, next up, I think it was Ant-Man and the Wasp, and then Captain Marvel was probably.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we got that because this also led into the Snap stuff.
Yeah,
this was a good end. This was a good end credit scene because I feel like in Infinity War we didn't really know how much of the population besides like our main Avengers and stuff.
Yeah.
Who all was being snapped. We knew it affected our main characters, but we didn't know it was going to affect like even those. And then of course Scott ended up in the quantum realm, being stuck, pays off later. So
yeah.
So this was good, Chris. I thought it was good.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I'm honestly a real sucker for this movie. Like, I know there's a conversation of people like, oh, this is the only good part of the movie. I generally think, I don't think it's amazing or anything, but I think it's a really fun superhero flick or whatever.
I like it more than because I have a lot of problems with Ant-Man 3. I like it much better than Ant-Man 3. So
I agree. Yeah, and yeah, no, I would agree with you. I think it sets it down. I do think there's a contrast thing where I think it's very funny. You have like a super lighthearted, fun, whatever movie, and then you just have like, oh, they're freaking dead, and that's such a. I would agree with you. I think it shows the audience like, oh yeah, what happened in that movie has real stakes, and it's affecting everyone anywhere. Like it doesn't matter where you are, and it makes you also think about like, what could other people be doing that could affect them in this way, like. Could there be astronauts in space and they can't get home? Or could there be, you like you always think about like the people in airplanes, like what happened to them? Like it opens a conversation. I think it's kind of fun.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's fantastic.
And then we have Captain Marvel, which I forgot about the scene until kind of going in and rewatching and gathering all of our image for this one. But yeah, it is Captain Marvel kind of coming in and meeting. I think it's just Black Widow here, and being like, "Yep."
She meets Black Widow and Cap.
Captain America too. That's right.
Yeah, so Cap shows up, bearded nomad Cap from Infinity War, and they're like looking at some device that like has the like stuff they need to set up Endgame. I forget what the specific device is, but there's something that leads into Endgame that they're like using a device for, and even Cap kind of questioning this new character and kind of like trying to figure out her motives, and as Cap loves to do. So
Yeah. I think it's smart to do some of this pre-work before Endgame. Like these last couple, like, you know, like the Ant-Man one in this has kind of been like, okay, this is where Ant-Man is in all this. This is where Captain Marvel is in on this. And not only building up the hype to Endgame, obviously people are like freaking out because like we need this movie, like we need to get to Endgame or whatever. But also Endgame's a hefty movie. It's 3 hours. So kind of doing a couple of those things where they don't have to in that 3 hour long movie is smart. So all right, they already know Captain Marvel. Cool, we don't have to deal with that next movie.
I think it definitely made it very meaningful with that, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I like this one a lot. It would have been cool. Like, I still wish we could have seen a bit more of Captain Marvel interacting with the Avengers. Like it's kind of crazy because like Captain Marvel actually isn't in Endgame very much. Like you're going into Endgame thinking that Captain Marvel is going to be a major player, and she's not too much, right? She at the very beginning, at the very end, but there's that middle line where she's just not in it. So it's kind of interesting like that.
See, that's why I think like, as much as like I'm sure Avengers 5 is gonna be great, I'm sure it's cool playing with this new team of heroes and seeing how we play to their strengths is gonna be great. But when you play with the big sandbox that ends up being Secret Wars and you have all these characters involved, that's gonna be where the real fun happens, because you're gonna get interactions with characters that you never imagined you'd see interactions with, and then you're gonna see like them actually like you're gonna get characters that you never would have thought of would have interacted, and like. Yeah. I think Carol has a role to play. I think Carol will probably interact with some Avengers that we didn't. Yeah. Because she's grown as a character since then. So I think it's better that she meets them now than then, because I think you can see her perspective much better now.
I agree. I think Avengers 5 is going to be very important and just making us care. I like the MCU. I like what they've done in 4 and 5 for the most part, but like. We definitely don't care about like the team dynamics that they've shown on play, and like a lot of people don't like the Marvels, and I think some of that is valid. But what I loved about it is that they were able to show, oh, this is a bigger universe. Like what the MCU has kind of was built on is characters being able to interact, and that those moments of like these 3 characters that we love interacting for the first time, I think was really fun.
I like the Marvels actually gave Carol a more likable personality, and you were able to like actually reason with her and find her likable.
Yeah, this was her best movie, I thought. Like I thought she was really good here.
I agree.
Yeah.
I like the Marvels. I don't know why people are so hard on the Marvels. I actually thought the Marvels was pretty decent.
I thought it was fun. I had a good time with it. Like it's not perfect. I had my issues with it, but there's a lot of fun to be had in that movie, I thought.
I loved the end credit scene.
Yeah. All right, we got 2 kind of big ones here with Spider-Man Far From Home, which is technically still phase 3. Like this is the last movie in phase 3, which I always thought was kind of weird, because I thought like, oh, I feel like this should have been the first movie in phase 4. But oh well.
Well, obviously they paid off both of these because the J. Jonah Jameson one was the most shocking one, because we didn't know he was going to come into this, and they did a great job with it, and I thought it was amazing.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, man, J.K. Simmons is like, he's become that character. Like, it's so weird because I feel like every version of him is now J.K. Simmons, or if it's not J.K. Simmons, it's someone trying to be J.K. Simmons, and I love that he's done that. Like, I'd argue he's one of the most iconic comic book character casting that we've ever had.
I think he is. I think he for sure is, because they've used him so well in that universe, and as a Spider-Man character, you definitely feel his iconicness. And then the other one, I mean, being there's the whole Skrull thing. It seems like they kind of paid off most of the Skrull stuff. So
yeah. Okay. Here. That's the other one, because I feel like, okay, I think they have paid it off. I just don't know if they've paid it off well, if you know what I mean. Like, I think Secret Invasion's weird. I don't want to dive too much into Secret Invasion. I liked the start of Secret Invasion, but the fall off for me was insane. Like, I hated what they did in the back half of that show. And I felt like the Marvels was the place where we were really going to get sword and stuff like that. And I don't know. I feel like it was just, once we got it, it was kind of like, yeah, this is whatever. Like, I remember at the time, I'm like, an Agents of Sword series with the Shield crew and stuff like that. Like I remember that being a big thing that I wanted back then.
Yeah.
But I think it was paid off. It hasn't been my favorite or anything, but I don't know. Like, do you think we're going to get more of Sword in the future? Like, would you like a show at some point, or do you think we're going to see more of that at all?
Sword, I think that'd be cool. I mean, I still want to see, because I thought she was going to originally play it in Secret Invasion. I thought we were going to see Abigail Brandt, and we haven't seen Abigail Brandt yet. So I'm down for Sword if it means we get Abigail.
Yeah. I don't know. It's definitely interesting. I think I don't know. I think Fury in the MCU right now is kind of interesting because, again, I felt like we could have paired him up to be a really cool element in this latest couple phases, but I don't know. I didn't love him in Secret Invasion. I guess I loved him at first. Like, I thought what they were trying to do at first was like, oh, this is actually a really cool element. Like, humanizing Fury in a way we haven't seen before is cool, but I think you just do it how you ended him in there is like, oh, none of that really mattered at all, did it? Like, none of it came to anything.
I thought they were going to build towards him, like, being, like, because, Samuel Jackson's an amazing actor, but, Nick Fury is one of those characters where, like, some people really, despite he doesn't have any powers, you look at all the versions of Nick Fury, some people just want to see Nick Fury kick ass, and I feel like they couldn't even deliver on that, which is kind of sad that they didn't deliver that.
Yeah, it's frustrating because, like, they were building up to this idea of, like, Nick Fury having to be accountable for his actions. Like, that's very interesting. And we come to the point where he's going to have to do that, and he's just like, well, I'm leaving now. I'll see you in my next movie. And it's like, wait. You're supposed to be doing all these things. You're supposed to, like, have this arc. And it's like they started the arc, and they just stopped halfway, and it's like, all right. And then in the Marvels, like, I thought that alone, like, he was fine in that movie, but, like, in contrast, it's like, but you were just doing this. I want to see that. But oh well. I don't want to harp on it too much because I've hated on that show a lot on this.
I still don't like what they did with their reveal with Rhodey. Really makes me mad because it deprived Tony of saying goodbye to his actual best friend.
I kind of like that though. Like, I like how tragic that is. Like, that was the one thing from the show that I liked. That I think just storyline wise, that could be very fascinating to see how Rhodey deals with that guilt and deals with that trauma. Like, that's terrible.
We got Armor Wars coming, so it's possible that we get that. And the other thing is, and this is something that we can talk about. I don't know if you consider it. Obviously, with Secret Wars and variants and stuff, I do have a feeling that while they might be very different characters, I think you're going to see all the original Avengers coming back for Secret Wars. Like, I think you're seeing they won't be the same characters that died, but as we're seeing with Hugh Jackman's Wolverine in Deadpool Wolverine, while we don't know obviously which version of this Wolverine is, we know it's not the one in Logan because they said they're not going to touch that. So I think that makes, of course, that this Iron Man we see won't be the one that snapped his fingers and said, I am Iron Man, but it will still be Iron Man. So
I kind of want them to, just personally, like, I know a lot of people have different opinions on this, and that's totally valid. I kind of want them to wait for, like, Robert Downey for a couple more years. Like, I know Secret Wars is going to be a while away still, unfortunately, but I kind of want them to wait, like, another 10 years or so. But in terms of Chris Evans, like, I love the idea of, like, he comes back, but not as Captain America, but as Human Torch. Like, I think that would be a really cool twist.
About this a while ago. I don't think you're going to have to wait for that, because I think that I got a really good feeling that Deadpool 3 you're going to get that.
Yeah.
Especially with Ryan Reynolds always loving making fun of other people playing other characters and how that's treated. I think it's the perfect time to bring him in.
Yeah. I can see it fitting so well with Deadpool's humor. Like, he comes out and he has the Captain America music and he's like, Captain, and he flames on and is like, oh, not Captain or whatever. Like, that's such a great joke.
What I want is, and I don't know how they'll do it, but because I love when actors can not only play other characters, but be in the same scene with the other characters. I'm hoping for in Secret Wars, when him to say "flame on," and then a variant of Captain America shows up, and you get that line from from I think it was in the end credit scene or one of the scenes in Free Guy where he's watching the footage of Ryan Reynolds. It's like, you gotta be shitting me. Like
Yeah.
just imagine him. Oh God, I can already imagine it. Just imagining him. I don't know. I'm all for that different variant. Like I after they showed like the idea that like, you know, a lot of people have still like kind of like, oh, I know it's not the Logan Wolverine, but why do they have to bring back Wolverine? Like this is still gonna wreck on it or whatever. Like, no, I think you'll be fine. But
Yeah.
I personally feel like I'm all for it because I grew up reading the comics, and to me, as long as you don't mess with the storyline that had these characters in, these characters are never truly dead. And I know you're all for the new characters, but even if they had good writing and they did a great job with these characters, those numbers that we have for these said characters don't lie. And the numbers say that if our original Avengers come back in any form, those numbers are going to skyrocket. Like I want to see these new characters be more realized, but they weren't going to carry the MCU on their back any longer. Like they could try, and they did try, and I don't know if they could have succeeded by themselves. Like they're good characters, but I think, and to wait 10 years for these characters like to come back, I see why, but with Secret Wars on the horizon, and I think Kevin Feige's getting ready to be done with Marvel and wants to move on to something different.
I could see him after Secret Wars announcing his retirement. Yeah, I could see that.
And that's because Secret Wars is going to be his biggest like masterpiece.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like he's a famous piano player or like a famous musician. That's gonna be his true grand finale that he wants to do amazingly. So I think and you can even see like because he originally worked with Fox before he worked on the MCU. That's why I think with Deadpool and Wolverine there's so much secrecy about it, because he's bringing back so many characters that he personally wants to see return. Because I think Secret Wars him bringing back his new characters and his old characters working together.
Yeah.
So I think that's his dream. I think that's why what he's built towards is putting he's always got to put the toys in the sandbox. Now he gets all of them in the same sandbox, which probably makes him very happy. So So I think that's I think that's kind of the move they're going for is to play in that sandbox. And I think these credit scenes were good. I think obviously the biggest implications is we got huge stuff with J.K. Simmons in No Way Home, and then the school stuff just it paid off, but did it like it was whatever.
Yeah, I agree. And I would say with this being kind of the end of Phase 3 and we're heading towards our 2-hour mark, I do think we're going to be wrapping it up here, and I'll have to save Phase 4 for another day. But I mean, just in general, out of all these Phase 3 projects that we talked about, do you have a favorite out of these? Is there one that was like, that one was my favorite?
I loved what was Infinity War Phase 3?
Infinity War was Phase 3. Yes, we had talked about that.
Infinity War is probably my favorite film in Phase 3. It's probably Infinity War and Civil War. I think both those movies are incredible in Phase 3.
Civil War is good, yeah.
And then of course Endgame, because that's in Phase 3, and we love Endgame. So I think those 3 films alone are great. I love them in Phase 3. I think they're all really, really good ones. I think Infinity War, I just loved how they broke the Avengers up, and then they had to they tried to fight this big villain separately and failed miserably, and then it just comes all crashing down. And then Endgame, seeing this beautiful journey come to this amazing 3-hour crescendo ending was just beautiful.
I love those 2 films. And in terms of just like my favorite post-credit scene, I think Far From Home, like the J.K. Simmons moment, might be my favorite like post-credit scene. Just in terms of like, obviously J.K. Simmons being there is insane to be like, oh my gosh, he's back, and then also just like Peter Parker Spider-Man, like that's such a huge moment that we didn't know where that was leading, and I think ultimately it led to a pretty interesting place where we are now with Peter Parker's version of the character. But with that being said, thank you so much, Joey, for being here. Thank you for talking with us for a while. It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Of course. Is there anything you would like to shout out or promo?
Yeah. So of course you can find me on YouTube as Jedi Joey 66. Go ahead and check that out. My channel is very much dedicated to a little bit of everything, depending on my mood. Some days you're getting Star Wars. Some days you're getting Marvel. Some days you're getting DC. And of course, because of the martial arts succession, you're also getting Cobra Kai. And speaking of Cobra Kai, if you guys are all marveled out and you want to talk something else like some fun Cobra Kai stuff, I do have a podcast that will be starting in about 10 minutes. I host every Thursday called it is called the Strike First Cobra Kai podcast, and we have a pretty good team of people that we've been working with. And what we're doing right now, instead of just making random theories, is we're basically writing the episodes of the final season from our perspective of what we think is going to happen. And I believe we're up to episode 4 right now.
Mm-hmm. That's really fun.
That's pretty fun. Yeah. So that sounds pretty cool.
That sounds like an absolute blast, and I will have to check it out when I have a chance. And I love Cobra Kai. Oh my gosh, one of my favorite shows.
Yeah.
I cannot wait for it to come back in a couple weeks. But again, sorry, go ahead.
I can't wait till we get to do more fun collabs. This was a ton of fun, and I feel like you and I really get each other, and that's going to be super fun.
Absolutely. And then on my side, like always, we'll be back next Thursday for another Pipeline episode. And Monday, we'll be talking more Doctor Who and my adventures with Superman, like always. Without further ado, everybody, I will see y'all on the flip side. Bye-bye.